Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Cognitive Drift. I am your host, Jay. Thank you for joining tonight. Please, if you're watching tonight, repost the stream. Let's get some people in here talking. I'm going to be joined by my friend Michael Wan tonight. Possibly Madeline is also joining tonight. And then I have a congressional candidate running for Congress here in Georgia this primary election. So what's been going on? We got a lot going on. We had Texas and North Carolina primaries yesterday. Had some disappointments in those elections. Did get some wins, but not exactly the way everybody wanted it to turn out. Plus, we got the war kind of trudging on in Iran. Made some big strikes in terms of defeating the Iranian stronghold. We sunk some ships of theirs. Sunk a frigate with a torpedo, which hasn't been done in a long time. So making some progress in terms of getting that government out of there. But without further ado, I'm gonna welcome to stage Michael. Thank you for joining me tonight. Appreciate you coming.
Hi Jay, how's it going?
Good. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I just finished my show a couple hours ago, and many things going on, like you said about the election last night. Some unexpected results, right? And yeah, I mean, Iran thing. It seems like I think things are going better better than people thought.
Yeah.
Even despite all the mainstream media trying to make a negative spin out of it. I mean, we are dealing with a country that has like 90 million population, right?
Right.
So it's kind of a different situation than Venezuela. We all knew that it was going to be a little bit more complicated than that. So all in all, I think, Pete Hegseth, War Department Secretary, as well as Marco Rubio and President Trump, I think they're doing their best. I think they're doing a very good job. And I, for one, supported the war, despite a lot of controversy surrounding this, because I think Iran is a little bit of a different animal. It's kind of like dealing with North Korea, like North Korea. What I understand is back in 1994, when Bill Clinton was president, he was actually considering attacking. I don't know whether you remember it, Jay, but they were actually President Clinton was actually planning to attack North Korea, and they even had like NBC News crew already there in South Korea. Some of the news stations were dispatching their reporters there so that war is imminent. But what happened was then South Korean President Kim Jong-un was vehemently against it. He said that he wouldn't use a single soldier to fight against North Korea because of the casualties. It's a small country, South Korea and North Korea. It's just north. So Paju is like the most north city there, and it's only like 20 miles from there to North Korea. So the casualty will be just astronomical. So that was the reason ultimately that Bill Clinton decided not to go ahead and attack North Korea. But a lot of South Koreans, especially the conservative side, think that it would have been much, much better if we would have taken care of North Korea back then, because they did not have nukes.
Yeah. The thing is with Iran, it's kind of bad timing in terms of elections coming up. I'm for them removing the Iranian regime. I'm for these guys going and we got Brian Montgomery. Welcome, brother. How you doing tonight?
What's up, Jay? How you doing tonight?
Good. We were just chatting before. We were talking
about
Brian. The Iranians.
Hello, Michael.
So this is my good friend Michael Wan, huge YouTube channel, good friend of mine. Really, we've done some shows together now and become friends, and just a super bright guy. And he's out of California, and then introducing Brian Montgomery. He's running for Congress in South Georgia, in District 1.
Okay.
So another congressional candidate that we're talking to here tonight, and kind of appropriate given what's going on or whatever. We touched a little bit on the elections yesterday. We saw some not so great results. We were hoping for you know, some better things to happen. I'm disappointed, but I'm glad that Paxton is still in there. One of the things that will really be upsetting to a lot of people is if Cornyn does get the endorsement from President Trump. The only angle that I could see where I would be willing to accept it, I guess, is he got some guarantee of passing the Save America Act. To be honest with you, I could see that, in terms of like, being a strategic move. If he just straight up endorses Cornyn, it's going to be bad for us. Like, it's going to be a bloodbath in the midterms. I hope he doesn't make that mistake, but because Cornyn is a never Trumper, and just really, a lot of the base supports Paxton because Paxton supported President Trump. Paxton was going to war against the Biden administration in terms of the border and stuff like that. And he was one of the few doing that. So a lot of the base supports Paxton. I support Ken Paxton. And hopefully he is our, the senator. But beyond that,
I support Paxton too, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing is, if that's the only way we get the Save America Act and President Trump works that angle, I can see it. To be honest with you, like, I want Ken Paxton. I want this to happen for America. I think he would be a great senator. I think John Cornyn is a terrible senator. And, but if he gets that, it's a game changer for conservative America. It's a game changer for America in general in terms of election integrity. What do you think, Brian?
So I've been laser focused here in the first day.
No
I'm listening right now.
No worries.
But the main thing I will talk about, it's unbelievable that we're not getting a vote out of the Senate on the Save Act. It's just unbelievable. There's very few things in this country right now that we can come all together on. And when you look at the polling on that, it's off the charts. Bipartisan support everybody wants. Election integrity, right? To build confidence back up in our system.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think the number is like somewhere around 80% of Democrat voters support it, right? It's up to 90+% for conservatives, obviously, but
ultimately, it's up to John Thune to decide, right?
Well, so the thing is, if they bring it to the floor, do they allow, the zombie filibuster? Then they're going to need, 2/3 majority in order to pass it, right? Whereas they could allow filibuster, they could allow debate on it, and just have a simple majority in order to pass it, right? They could do that, right? They could allow the process, they could allow debate on the subject or whatever, and they could pass it. And that's up to John Thune, and I don't think John Thune has any intention of passing it. I don't think he wants to. If he did, he would have already done it. So, but if President Trump's
he's not going to do it, I think.
What's that?
He said he's not going to do it.
Well, the thing is President Trump might be working something behind the scenes. Again, this goes back into the Cornyn endorsement. If that happens, I could see that, him working that angle, because Thune called today for President Trump to endorse Cornyn. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. That's,
but either way, you're not happy. I mean, if he
Ken Paxton is American. He's a hero in a lot of respects. He was he was the only one going against the Biden administration to stop the flood at the border, which was absolutely
a lot of lawsuits.
So detrimental to our country. So Ken Paxton's a hero in my mind. So but talking more about the war. So we were talking about they sunk some ships today. They sunk a frigate with a torpedo. That was pretty cool to see.
Out in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what's left of, the Iranian arsenal. I believe they had, before this started, they had about 80,000 Shahed drones. I'm not sure where they're at now. I know they have shot several thousand obviously, and at basically any country within reach. They've shot them at every single country, and so this goes to people talk about the war, and people are kind of the ones that are against the war and stuff like that. But this kind of goes. It kind of says something about why it's important to kind of take this regime out. These guys are blindly firing these things at any country that they can reach, and they're hitting civilians, they're hitting civilian buildings. They do not care. Like they're just it's like a full-on jihad in their mind, and so they're going to wreak havoc in any way they can. And so they're trying to stand up a new leader. They're trying to, and President Trump, this is one of the things he has to finish this. There's no going back now. Like you have to be in it to win it. Otherwise, they're gonna continue on. And so I don't know. It's hopefully it ends quickly. We've had some casualties. They published the names of the soldiers that were killed in the drone attack, which is unfortunate, but hopefully it comes sooner rather than later, because it's bad.
In a way, we kind of caused this problem during the Obama era, right? For the Iran deal, I think Obama, didn't he send like $1.7 billion in 3 planes, cash? He pulled out all the chairs off of the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And 1.7, and also during Biden, that money actually came from South Korea. $6 billion. So South Korea imported some oil from Iran back in the day.
Yeah.
But they froze according to international law. But then Biden forced South Korea to give the frozen money back to Iran, which was $6 billion, and it was actually a month prior to October 7th.
Right.
So I think they actually used that money and gave it to Hamas, and Hamas attacked Israel, and we have this Middle East mess again.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I really blame Biden and Obama a lot on this.
For sure. Yeah, they deserve it. I mean, they stood. I mean, hell. I mean, Valerie Jarrett was doing everything she could to help the Iranian regime while Obama was president, and also Susan Rice too were pro-Iran, trying to do anything they could to help out the Iranian regime, which is completely. They have death to America chants, right? Why would you be helping these people out? It's just completely mind blowing. But yeah. So
yeah. No, I'm listening to everybody. It's a great conversation. I think the main difference here is we have a president that gave them every opportunity. I mean, I was just talking to somebody. It was like a month ago, right, where he made the comment like, "We know where you're at. The only reason you're alive right now is because I'm allowing you to be alive." And then sent the negotiators over and kind of gave them, "Hey, this is it. Take it or leave it." And they chose to leave it on the table. Now they're paying the consequences for it. I mean, a lot of people are saying, for President Trump saying that he's a guy of peace, and like he is absolutely a guy of peace. He gave them every option to put their guns down, to stop, and gave them an exit strategy, and they didn't want to take it. So I think they found out the other part of President Trump is that when he says he's going to do something, he's going to back it up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Operation Midnight Hammer, that was the warning, right? Don't do it, and they still did it, right? They still tried to develop nukes.
Right.
Afterwards. So I think President Trump
I think the misconception here is that people actually think that Iran wanted to negotiate. Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
No,
you're right.
They're an evil empire that is getting everything that they deserve right now.
Yeah. So I do think this situation is a little bit different from like the Israel issue. A lot of Israel has become a huge issue among the MAGA base, but I think this, I do believe it's a little bit different, because President Trump has always warned about the threat of Iran. Even during his first term back in 2016, he talked about how much of a mess Iran nuclear deal is, and he said that will not stand. He will not allow Iran to develop nukes. I mean, so that's what happened with North Korea. Now United States have a much more difficult pathway with North Korea, because they're not listening. So, and you don't want that sequel happening again in Iran. So.
Well, you can't trust
Michael.
if the nuclear deal or whatever, they were still trying to develop nuclear weapons. They just were pretending like they weren't, right? They have, like, I think the latest figure was that currently they had enough to build, to enrich 10 warheads is what they have currently. Well, obviously the nuclear deal didn't work. They
obviously didn't work.
They have enough to enrich 10 warheads.
And if you look at the details, it's really ridiculous. The Iran deal, like America was supposed to give like $150 billion, and you have to inform Iran 24 days in advance that we're going to surveil them, to see whether they're developing nukes or not. Right. And it's just ridiculous. Even I think one of the clauses was if Iran gets attacked by another nation, America has to protect them. It was just craziness all the way around. And America, and they also had like this sunset clause. After like 10 to 15 years, they can develop nukes again. So it's the Iran deal was a mess from the get-go.
Right. Yeah. The other thing that was going on in the Hill today was Tim Walz was he was given a deposition before Congress, which Nancy Mace was.
I saw that.
him. Me and my co-host in Spaces, Kimmy, we hosted Nancy Mace before, but he was absolutely giving it to him today, and thank God for that, because Tim Walz, I'm not sure how he's still governor, to be honest with you.
The questions were great. She asked him, do you know a woman, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what a woman
outside of that, I was reading some stuff this morning, right, is that they identified it, had stopped the funding, and then looked at the base, what the Democrats up there in Minnesota rely on to get elected. Right. And then the allegation was once they saw the impact, and I think there was a lawsuit like talking about discrimination against Somalis up there, that they turned it back on, that it was paused and then turned back on. And I think that raises some questions up there on, why did they allow it to go on for so long?
Right. Yeah. It's, they're getting kickbacks, right? They were getting kickbacks. They were paying their for their elections through these frauds or whatever. Like indirectly, they were getting money from these people to keep, to look the other way, essentially, is what they were doing. And it's crazy that it's so intertwined up there. Walz, Keith Ellison, Ilhan Omar, or whatever. Like it's wild how that happened in Minnesota. I grew up there, right? I grew up there, and it's a completely different place than it used to be. And Minnesota, a lot of people don't realize what it's a lot like Georgia. It's outside of the cities, right? It's very conservative, farm country, a lot of hunters and fishermen. Like it's, and then you have, in St. Paul, Minneapolis, Rochester, you have these liberal strongholds, which now they have flooded with Somalis for, to kind of, like it can never go Republican at this point, because they've infiltrated everything. They're getting all the money, and the politicians are looking the other way, and it's a mess. It really is. They got to do there, and if they could get the Save America Act, maybe could be a game changer, because these cities are relatively small. It's not like Chicago, right? St. Paul, Minneapolis is a lot smaller than something like that. So maybe they can, through the Save America Act, they can make a big difference. They've already deported I think over 10,000 of the illegals that were there. So hopefully that also has an impact on the elections there.
I mean, it seemed like Tim Walz didn't even prepare for the hearing today, right? I mean, Nancy Mace was asking him questions about the fraud amount back in 2017, and all he could answer was, "Hey, I was not the governor back then," and it was like $1 million for autism fraud.
And it was 2000. It was 2007.
2017.
Yeah, and his excuse was, "Well, I wasn't governor then."
I wasn't governor. And then she asked her another question.
2024 figure, and he was like, "You need to know the figure," and she was like, "Well, your original excuse was that you weren't governor. You were.
That amount was $384 million.
Yeah, it was like
$384 million. Wow.
33,000% increase in funding.
I mean, it just goes to show how clownish, I know it's your state, Jay, but Minnesota became like this
Not my
clown
state.
town.
It's not Georgia.
And and to think that this crazy clown almost became our VP,
Could you
She
imagine?
was- it's
Could you
just
imagine?
yeah, like he said, thank God he never became VP,
Right.
right. We dodged a bullet there.
For sure. Yeah.
In more than one ways, Michael. In more than one ways.
Yes, yes. And I just don't understand the Democrats anymore. They used to be a little. I mean, when Bill Clinton, that the '90s, the Democrats sometimes made sense, but now it's just they're Looney Tunes. All the stuff they push out there, these fraud, their transgender agenda, and not even being able to address what a woman is. I mean, it just goes to show how
Can't
crazy-
identify between a male and a female.
You can't
Support criminals, right?
Mhm.
Just like every single argument that you have, where you have the Republicans on one side, demanding law and order, right? Respect for the institution. It's just that whatever we argue is the right way, which we have the majority of the support behind us in the American population. It's like they take the opposite, and you just kind of look at me like, how can you even argue that point?
I mean, the only sensible Democrat right now is John Fetterman, surprisingly, from Pennsylvania. I think I like him.
Yeah,
So I don't
think
hate
he was
all
the first
Democrats.
one. He was the first one that kind of came out with support on the actions, taking out the leadership of Iran. And he said point blank, this was the right thing to do.
Right.
We just need more of that in the country, where people are,
Mhm.
instead of playing politics and trying to look at, how's this going to be viewed on social media, they say, no, this is the truth. This is the right thing to do. And,
Yeah.
really appreciate him coming out and support.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of common sense, and he's principled. Like that he is going to look out for his constituents, right? He even supports the Save America Act. So it's he represents a better Democrat. I wish we had more like him. I wish we could, I wish he was the leader of the Democrat Party. Like he's honestly he represents a better Democrat, even though he mostly votes liberal. That's the other part of it. Like he generally votes on the liberal party line or whatever, but it's you can have a conversation with the guy. Like he's sensible in some ways, and in other ways that Democrats are not. They're just completely irrational on a lot of things, and they vote lockstep too, which is the biggest, like the most concerning part. It doesn't matter how crazy it is, they will vote lockstep together because they're also afraid of each other, right? They're afraid of canceled too. So that's a problem.
Yeah, we got to give him credit. We got to give him credit for wearing the suit during the State of the Union, right?
Yeah, he was sharp, and he was the last hand that President Trump shook before he walked on the stage too.
Yeah, and on the important issues, he knows how to unite. I feel like the border, the Iran issue. I mean, he's somebody that surprises me. I didn't know that John Fetterman was a little bit more of a moderate. I always got the impression that he was more of a, like closer to far left, but he really surprised me. And I do think that we shouldn't. I think Jay, you said it. Like we shouldn't hate all Democrats. Some of them are not good. I think Kristen Sinema was pretty okay, right? Joe Manchin.
Yeah, well, yeah. Joe Manchin, he also he let us down a lot of times too when we really needed him to do something or whatever. Cinema, they helped us out sometimes, but other times they didn't. But,
yeah, right.
But yeah, so I don't know. It's a mess in the Senate. It's that's our most dysfunctional.
It really is.
That's the most dysfunctional I guess not branch, but
even Mitch McConnell, right? He's such a disappointment too. I mean, I can't stand him.
Yeah, he's a Democrat now. He's a straight up like he's vote anything conservative, he's against it now. Like he did anything President Trump wants, anything that conservatives wants, he's against it now. I don't like, and he's barely functioning as a human being. Like he can barely walk. He can not have, he doesn't do public speeches anymore. Like he's barely functioning. I don't even know why we allow this, but here we are.
I mean, we really should put term limits, but I don't think that's ever going to happen in America. But I think it would make a healthier America, if our politicians have like a term limit. Then we wouldn't have creatures like Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, all these swamp monsters that's just corrupting DC.
Yeah, when you look at kind of what we need to do, and Michael, I am absolutely for term limits. I hope we can find a way to get it in there, whether it's grandfathered or not. But we've got to structurally change how we're doing business, because we're not getting anything done right now. People go up there, stay 30, 40 years. If you can't get something done in 10, 12 years, the reason that you're going up there to fight, try to make a difference for the people that you're representing, if you can't get it done in 12 years, you've got to have that fire to continue to work day in and day out, to have that impact on your constituents and the people that sent you up there, because you're working for them. So, whether that, I've had a couple conversations, and it's a sticky problem, is, you look at the House of Representatives, a 2-year term, right? And so, for me personally, looking at, 6 2-year terms or 12 years total for the House, same thing, maybe 2 6-year terms for the Senate, 12 years. But you got to look at everything that we're required to do. I think the biggest issue is we've got to look at fundamental changes and amendments to the Constitution, because right now it's not working out for us, right? We do a budget every single year. When you have a 2-year term in the House of Representatives, I've been told, I've spoken to a lot of people what this process looks like, and what are the good times and the bad things. What do I need to know, if elected, if given the opportunity to serve the people of the first district? What does that look like? And they said, look, there's 2 great days as a candidate: the election night, if you win, right? That's number one. And the second is when you're actually sworn in, because the next day after that, you're focused on the next election. And so we divide our bandwidth between, we've got a lot of hard problems that we've got to work on for our country. But if your focus is split because I've got to be worried about that next election, then how are you putting your full effort into those issues that demand attention for the people in the United States? And so, when you're looking at a yearly budget, half the time, I think this is the first time we've got 12 appropriations passed in Congress this year. I think that's right. But before that, it was back in the 90s where we got all appropriations bills and passed a full budget. We've been relying on these omnibus bills to get everything done, or continuing resolutions to get stuff done. So one, we either need to look at, do we go to every 2-year budget, right? And so that people can focus on the budget and then, pass a balanced budget, get it done for 2 years, and then we can rotate out? Or do we need to transition to maybe 4-year terms in the House, right? So that people can focus on the right things instead of constantly be able, being ready to go for the next election. But we got to take a hard look at that, because I think right now, people are upset with Congress because we're not getting anything done for the people, and we need to fix that.
Well, when I interview like former Congress members, like current Congress member Young Kim from California, and also former Congresswoman Michelle Park Steele, they told me that they spend 70 to 80% of their time fundraising.
Right. Yeah. That's the key right there. Is if you can limit the amount, is it just say whatever, like $200,000 for a congressional candidate, just limit it right there. You can raise up to this amount and that's it, right? This is the amount that you can use for your election. If they could limit it somehow, whatever, like 10 million for president or whatever, like something like that, because these amounts are astronomical, and that's the other part of it, right? If you get somebody who has a huge lobby that's willing to support them and they're willing to take money from them, then they're nearly impossible to get out of office. Right. Because they're going to fill their campaign coffers and their war chest, and they're nearly impossible. When they have $10 million, somebody grassroots is not going to be able to defeat them. They're going to be able to run commercials. They're going to be able to run, they're going to have a team of social media going at people. Like, they're going to have all this bullshit going on, and somebody grassroots, it's going to be nearly impossible for them to defeat them.
Yeah. Jay, it's like you're talking about the congressional race in the first district right now.
you can elaborate if you want to. Yeah. I've done some posts out there, man, and even Gateway Pundit reposted me.
They did? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a second part of that too, Jay. The money has a big issue to deal with it, but we're in a continuous election cycle right now. Uh-oh, did I freeze?
A little bit, but we can still hear you.
You're
Okay.
okay. You're fine. Yeah.
We're in a continuous election cycle. And so people are getting exhausted that, I've been running for 6.5 months. I entered the race on August 25th. So I think that math's right. And Monday, the race just got started. I qualified to actually put my name on the ballot on Monday. And we've got 10 weeks to go into the primary. But I'm just one race. There's a special election going on the 14th in Northwest Georgia. You have multiple primaries going on all the time. And so when you're looking at, and I think the critical thing right now is people are tired of the election process continuing to go over and over again. And what we're seeing is that people are getting disenfranchised from it. They're not paying attention. They're not doing their homework on the candidates that are actually in the race, right?
Mhm.
Most people don't really start paying attention until a couple weeks out. And so, I think it's, the money's one aspect of it, but it's continuous. It's over and over and over again. I mean, we're already looking at presidential candidates for 2028. And, we're more than 2 years out from that election. And so people are just getting worn down by all the robocalls, all the, the
Yeah.
social media, all the advertisements that are on TV, and it turns people off. We've got to keep people engaged. This is our process. And if we lose the people taking part of the process, you look at now 250 years of sacrifice and what it took for us to have the democracy that we have, the republic that we have, and all the great things we've done in this nation. If we lose the interest of the people to actually be a part of the process, we could lose it like this. And
Mhm.
so, like I said, there's a lot of things going on, but money being an aspect, the continuous election cycles going on. You've got to be able to find candidates that are going to be able to get out there, get with the voters, and inspire them. Right? I think I've heard that multiple times in the campaign trail.
Mhm.
I just, it's not that there's a candidate that I want to vote for. I just know who I want to vote against. Well, when did we get
Mhm.
there? Why can't we have candidates that are inspiring people that want them to get out to the polls and vote for that person that they know is going to fight for them up in DC? And so there's a lot of things going on right now, and I'm just, this is my first time running for anything in politics, and I'm learning a ton as I'm going through the process. But it's exciting to get out and talk to people
Yeah.
and hear the issues and have those conversations with them.
Mhm.
I've been a little bit quiet at the beginning. I talk all day long, so it was great just to be able to listen to y'all's
Uh-huh.
conversation.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes it's Thunderdome in here. So I have a few different people that will bring in good friends of mine. Kevin Smith is another one, and Madeline is she usually comes too, but very outspoken. So that I
Mhm.
wanted to give you a chance to talk, and me and Michael are pretty. We can, we're a little bit like it's a little bit, we can let somebody else speak or whatever. They are
We know.
pretty.
We know when to back.
Yeah.
Be a little bit.
Well,
So,
I love Madeline and I love Kevin Smith. They're great people, and just very very outspoken. So, and they're very knowledgeable too.
I think we're all outspoken. Yeah, but
Yeah, we all
I think yeah.
all
But
bring
I like to hear you guys' opinions. So.
we all bring a different flavor, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot to unpack there, but the thing is like here we are. This is what we got, and this is what we got to do. And so, how do we get that done? I'm doing my best with social media and stuff like that. The other part is overcoming these, kind of the dirty politics, right? It's a lot. And in Georgia, a lot of people are frustrated with the good old boy system, a lot of the dirty things that happen here or whatever, because it doesn't it doesn't reflect the way that Jordans want things to happen, right? It's a very conservative state. Most people, if you put a good an honest conservative candidate up there and you get it out to the majority of Georgians, they will vote for that person. They want to do the right thing. And what happens is you get these big money donors and stuff like that backing a candidate that's gonna vote favorably for these lobbyists and stuff like that, and they bury the good ones, right? They bury them, and people are frustrated. But I don't know how else to get it out. I don't know how. Like I'm going to use my social media platform. I'm going to use I'm going to try and help out when I can. But the thing is like it's a lot to overcome, and I know a lot of candidates feel the same way, and maybe you can elaborate on that, Brian.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? So, one of my main competitors is the son of a former congressman inside the district. So, there's a lot of relationships, networking, things going on there that have supported this candidate. I think he had $800,000 in the first quarter, right? Which is unheard of. And, you want to say, and immediately the impact is, oh, he's the favorite candidate, right? Because he's got all the money. Well, no, you've got to follow where that money's coming from and how it got there, right? And so, it's an open seat primary because Representative Carter is running for the Senate seat in Georgia, but this race is like I'm up against an incumbent, right? It's
Yeah.
like he's been in the seat forever because of the relationships that his father has. I was on a show the other day, and they said, "Why is everybody getting on Jack's son's bandwagon?"
Hmm.
And I told him, I'm like, "Look, you've got to look at, if you look at just money alone, yeah, sure, it looks like he's way ahead." But if you're actually on the ground in the district, putting the work in, putting the effort in every single day and talking to the people in the district, I would argue that it's not so clear cut. I think there's a lot of momentum, for me, in this race. And, the difference between the two candidates is one thinks he's won the race already. And the other one is out there actually demonstrating that I'm willing to work hard for the people of the first district. So,
Hmm.
They,
Jason,
well, the donations should have a disclaimer with it. It should say how much came from within the district. It should say how much came from small donations and stuff like that. It should have a disclaimer showing that, right? Because if you showed up on day one with 800,000 in your war chest or whatever, obviously that didn't come from small donors throughout the district. That didn't even probably even come from your district, right? And
Hmm.
so, that's the other part of it. Like it should have some kind of disclaimer on where they're getting this money from. If it's coming from big pharma, if it's coming from, industry, if it's coming from overseas, like it should have some kind of disclaimer from it. And that's the other piece too, is like they figured out like they can send it out to these people that are placed and that are willing to donate on behalf of foreign donors. That's another problem too. But not
It's
not
a
not talking about this situation, but that's talking about like nationwide. That's another
And
problem.
it's not this situation, Jay. Before I got in the race, I've had, I was very blessed. I enlisted in the Army, earned the opportunity to go to West Point, and then continued to serve 20 years after I graduated West Point as an infantryman. But, through that entire experience, I've been able to work with, meet with, serve with incredible people. Three of my classmates are currently members of Congress. Wes Hunt had was came up third in the Senate race out in Texas,
yeah.
and then John
Uh,
James, who's one of my closest friends, is running for governor up in Michigan. And but outside of that, I've had mentors that have served. My former battalion and brigade commander served 3 terms up in New York. I've had friends run in different congressional races, and one of them ran in North Carolina and had a similar situation to me, where there was a son, a young man that had plenty of money. And he told me over and over again, he's like, Brian, like, before you think about getting into this race, understand that guy, when they have that much money, they don't have to show up. They don't have to
mhm.
make themselves available to the voters in the district. They are going to pummel the airwaves. They're going to be able to, with that amount of money, they're able to send out mailers every single day. They're able to get commercials on the air. And so you can work 18 hours a day, getting out with the people, telling them, introducing yourself, spreading your message. But come a month before the primary starts, they're just going to blanket the airwaves, and that's it. And that's game over. So think hard about this. And I'll be honest with you, I did think hard about it. But in the end, we have to affect some change, right? We have to change the way that this process plays out. And, I tell people all the time, I've fought for this nation for the last 23 years of my life.
Yeah.
Fighting is the only thing I know. The sacrifice that I've seen in service to the nation, the actual service to the nation, this is not who we are. This is not what we fought for. And so if I can just be one part of that, right? My wife sat down and, as we were making the decision, she goes, you know, what are you thinking? And I said, Carrie, I'm going to be honest with you. I can sit on the sidelines for the rest of my life and say, what if? Or I can jump into this race and work my tail off and try to affect change in this country, to get the right representatives up to DC that aren't up in it to earn money for themselves, or aren't up in it to make a name for themselves, but to actually serve the people. I'm laser focused on winning, but we know that we've already had an impact in this race. If you look post January, several of the candidates changed their websites to mirror what my message is and what is resonating with the voters. So we know we're having an impact with folks inside the first district. And so that just continues to build the momentum to stay in this fight, right? The fact that I signed and qualified to put my name on the ballot on Monday, that is a huge step to understanding that I am in this fight for the people of the first district. And we're going to continue moving on, whether you have $800,000, $1.6 million, because I feel, and I know, just like you said earlier, Jay, that's not how Georgians work. They want somebody who's going to be there with them on the ground, talking to them and fighting for them on a daily basis. And I think that's what I have to bring that's different than other candidates in the race.
There are 8 candidates there, right? Among Republicans?
I think so. Qualification's still going on until Friday at noon.
Okay.
And so Friday at noon, we'll figure out what the ballot looks like.
I know one dude there. I just checked the list. There's a guy named Eugene Yu. Do you know him?
Yeah. How do you know Eugene?
He has been a kind of like a controversial figure, but also I think he's like a CAFLA president there, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Korean American Federation of Los Angeles president. I mean, Korean American Federation of, I think, Atlanta, Georgia president, president or something.
Yeah, like I've just been to a couple of events with Eugene. He always makes me smile. He seems like a great guy. We have great conversations. I don't know that much of his background though.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, he is kind of well known in the Korean American conservative.
Okay.
I mean, to be a little bit out there. He's a little bit out there, so I'll just say that. Yeah, because I just checked his name, and he's kind of more famous, like in the South Korea, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, so we got the primary coming up, right? Next month, early voting starts. Talk to us about, what you're doing between now and then. What's are you going to events? Are you, what are you doing from now and then to kind of make it happen? One of the things that I've noticed in Georgia is outside of the big election, the presidential election, I don't see like a lot of signs and stuff out there. Like, I don't see like, a lot of people don't even know that an election is going on. They would vote, but they don't even know that there's a damn election going on. And it's one of the things, like, I caught my best friend on this, right? He was, we were talking about the mayor race in our area, and we were talking about, voting for, one person or the other or whatever. And he lives out this side of the city, and he was like, he was pretending like he had voted for mayor. And I was like, no, you didn't vote for mayor. And I caught him on that, because I was like, you don't live in the city limits. There's no way you voted for it. Like, you didn't vote. And so like, but I got him on that, but like, the thing is like, most people don't even know these elections are going on. And right. That's a problem in my mind. I have seen some signs out. I have seen a few out there or whatever, but these elections are every bit as important as the presidential election, because if President Trump doesn't have the people supporting him, then we're not going to get things done. Like the Save America Act, we have these people that are holding the process up, grandstanding for whatever reason. I don't know if they're waiting for somebody to give them something for their vote or whatever, but it's a problem. And so if we could get some conservatives in there, if we could, like I said, most Jordans are, conservative people. Even the liberals within Georgia are fairly conservative. They go to church. They go, like it's different than, Los Angeles, right? But
yet you have 2 Democrat senators, right?
Yeah, most of them go to church. Most of them, like, it's a completely different thing. It's not the blue-haired, like what you see, at some other places in the country. And so, for the most part, if we put a conservative candidate up there that's going to do the right thing and we get their name out there, they're probably going to win, And so,
So Jay, I think it's you talked about signs. I think I had 5, 6, 7 phone calls today asking for signs. The focus is, and there's a couple things in here, and then I'll build into my answer to your question what I'm going to be doing, over the next 10 weeks. Number one, we've put in a lot of groundwork. Give me a couple seconds here. I got in the race August 25th. I just retired from the military in November of 24, right? And so making that transition into corporate America, was great. And then this opportunity came up for me. I was asked by my friends, hey, we want you to continue service. You need to get into this race. And I didn't know anything about politics, right? But because of my military service, the last 6 months of my battalion command, I was forward deployed in Poland to deter any further Russian regression, west. And so, it's even though we've lived inside the district for almost a decade, my interactions outside, Jay, you know how it was in the military, right? 4:30 in the morning, you're not getting home until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and you got to spend some family time in there to keep the family together. And so, outside of work and, service to the nation, it was focused on the family that left very little time to kind of get out in the community. And so one of the things was, how are you going to get your name out there, right? And so, when I started this race talking about, dynasties, I didn't start this with a list of 1,000 or 3,000 people to call, right? It wasn't like I made a decision, I'm going to run for Congress, and I had somebody there to mentor and support me to say, okay, here are the first 3,000 people you called. It started with one phone call, one meeting, and then the networking expanded. And so what we've been focused on is mobilizing people in all of the 15 counties, right? Building that army. If there's one thing that, I kind of know how to do is build the team, get the right people in the right place at the right time, and then you execute it when the moment's right, right? And so we've been laser focused on building that grassroots momentum, getting those key players across the district so that we're ready to turn it on. It's time to go. And so that's what we've been focused on leading into qualification, getting ready to go the next 10 weeks. The next 10 weeks, I've got to get out there, right? 100%. I've got to make that sharp contrast between every other candidate in this race, ones that will show up and will participate in forums and get in front of people, and those that won't, right? And so, our focus is 2 to 3 events a day, getting out to all 15 counties. We're trying to decide on what the next 3 weeks look like, whether it's an accountability tour, whether it's kind of what's that TV show, Divers, Dines, and whatever it is, the food one where you go to all these restaurants and you interact with people. It's just what we've been doing is gathering the intelligence. What are those key areas in each of the counties? What are those key events that we have to go to, building up that calendar for the next 10 weeks? So that every single day we're hitting somewhere multiple times a day, getting in front of the people, giving them an opportunity to get to know me, ask questions. I've been in very hostile environments, right? Walking in, knowing that this may not be a Team Montgomery family area or friendly area, but I'm not afraid to go out there and talk to people and get in front of them, right? And so that's kind of the focus is I've already gone through one set of tires on the truck. That was not a campaign expense that I was had put on the budget. But when you have 15 counties in a district that is geographic as big as this is, you're going to wear through some tire treads. And so, that's the same mentality is getting out there. In the past 6.5 months, I've gone from nobody knowing my name to now vast majority of the conversations are my name's at the top of the list
Wow.
when it comes to who's running in this race.
Wow.
And that has just purely been getting out there, getting recommendations from friends and networking, right? It's every conversation is, do you have 3 or 5 people that you can introduce me to? And it's just build out the network to where the name is readily known inside the district. And now I got to get out there and prove to them that I will show up. I will put in the hard work now, and you can have confidence that if I earn your trust and you elect me to be your representative, I'm going to put in the same level of hard work when I go up to DC for you. And I think that's what you've got to demonstrate.
You have a lot of Korean American constituents there too, right? In the Georgia area, first district, because they have like the LG Hyundai battery factory.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, the Hyundai Meta plant, the battery factories are going in, and yes, there is a good Korean representation in the district.
Yeah, so a lot of Korean Americans, they ask me about. I mean, they are interested about probably your thought of what happened during the ICE raids. You know, there were a bunch of, I think like 200 plus people got arrested, and that became like such a major issue, not just for the Korean Americans here, but also in South Korea as well. I think President Trump was kind of upset about how Georgia dealt with it. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, so Michael, so that's very interesting. That raid took place. It was the week that I got started. I think it was the
Oh,
week or
okay.
two. I was at my very first
Mhm.
event, and I got asked a question about what I thought about that raid, right? And I think everybody immediately jumped to illegal immigration, illegal aliens getting hired at the plant, right? And there was a small fraction of that.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you what I saw that night was that South Korea sent out from the embassy sent out a letter, and I said, okay, this is interesting, right? Why is the embassy sending a letter to the US government? Something's
Yeah.
not right here.
Mhm.
And the first question I got was, well, what do you think about that? Can you believe that, we gave them all these tax benefits and, they're hiring illegal aliens to do the work? And I said, listen, if 23 years in the military have taught me anything, it's usually first reports are wrong, right? You always got to let the situation develop, get a better understanding. And I think that's one of the issues that we have in government right now is people are so quick to jump on social media to kind of get something out there instead of waiting for the situation to develop and the facts to come out.
Yeah.
And so I took a very like, hey, we need to wait for this because there's something off about this. This doesn't seem right, right? All the indicators are this is not what you think it is. And then of course later on we found out that it wasn't illegal. There's issues with visas and the
Yep.
people that were
Yep.
here to help train
Mhm.
our workforce, right? And so I think that was an opportunity for us to actually understand, we have a lot of investment going on in this country
Mhm.
with foreign companies that are doing their best to, help build America ingenuity and bringing manufacturing back. But we have to do our job to ensure that if somebody's going to invest in this country, we need to ensure that we give them the ability to have the right workforce here to help train Americans to do the jobs, which is just what Hyundai was doing. So I
Yeah.
think that, the president came back later on and said, hey, look, I wasn't very supportive of that raid or however he said it. I can't remember exactly. And I don't
Mhm.
definitely don't want to put words in the president's
Mhm.
mouth.
Mhm.
But I think we need to do a better job with those companies that are investing in the United States
Yeah.
and helping them through that
Yeah,
process.
I
So
felt like there was kind of like a lack of communication between two nations with South Korea and the States, but like 475 people were detained, and
well, the
300 plus
thing
were
is,
came from South Korea. And
to simplify it though, is what they were doing is they were behind schedule on getting the plant set up. So
yeah,
why did they have Koreans there? Because the plan, you know, all the engineering, all this stuff comes from Korea, right?
yeah,
They build a duplicate of plants that they
mhm,
already have,
yeah,
setting all this stuff up. So they have Koreans in there involved in the construction process and setting up the plant, and they were visa overstays. Is essentially what they
yep.
were. So
Travel
they
visa,
were
yeah,
behind.
yep,
They were behind schedule. They were visa overstays. Granted, they broke the law. Hyundai should
mhm,
have known. Hyundai
yep,
should have
yep.
known this.
That's what I
Hyundai
think.
should have swapped them out or renewed their visa, whatever they needed to do.
Mhm, mhm,
But they were behind schedule, and
mhm.
that's why a lot of that happened. So that's
Yeah,
that's
So Jay, coming down the communication, like Michael was saying, right?
yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
I
we
mean,
have an issue here. We're hitting a deadline.
I took real bad issue with it because South Korean media and the Korean American media here, they are just pretty much translated version of what the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN reports, ABC, NBC, CBS. It's far left, right? Or pretty left. And they kind of portrayed President Trump in a bad light and a negative light. But what I think is, yeah, I mean, there were illegal activity. They were not supposed to stay here, with a travel visa, right? So they should have communicated better with the president's team, or I just didn't want. I took issue that some people in South Korea and here in Korean Americans taking advantage of that to bash President Trump. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's really totally wrong.
Well,
I
I
just
mean,
want to say that.
anything President Trump does, the media is gonna try
Yeah.
to catch them. The media, like, it doesn't matter. Like, again, he could have cured cancer or whatever, and they're gonna come out
Right.
against President Trump. That's just what they do. I don't know why. Maybe it helps their ratings. I'm not sure exactly why.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
recently, they did report that President Trump did have some issues of the process of it. So I think that kind of alleviated a little bit, for the Korean Americans here. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The media is a big problem
It
too,
is. Yeah, it
and
really is.
especially
So among the Korean American media, I was probably the only one talking about the real situation, what's going on, that they broke. So I can honestly say this: you will not see this kind of illegal activity among the Japanese community. They are very
Mm.
law abiding. It really has something to do with the Korean American community too, because I do think that um, a large portion of Korean American community do kind of skirt the law. You know what I'm saying? To save their expenses and labor fees and stuff like that. So that has been a huge issue actually in the community. Just wanted to
Interesting.
let you know, because it was surprisingly it was in your district. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too, is like there is some individual responsibility there too. Like
yeah,
when your visa is going to
of
expire.
course, of
It's
course,
it's outlined in your visa,
yeah,
like when it's good to. So there is some individual responsibility there too.
no
They
question
cannot
about it. But
say,
the way
"Oh,
they
well, I
portray
need
was
to go," or whatever.
President, yeah, but the way they portrayed it was President Trump wanted all these investment over here. Now South Korea invested here, but look what happened. They're arresting us. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah, again, going back to your point, Michael, the law is the law, right? And we need to do our utmost to
no question
follow the
about it. No
law.
question about
And
it.
so, whether it's a communication, kind of like what you had brought up first, is hey, there's a lack of communication to the two. Did they bring up the fact that hey, we have a whole bunch of visas about to expire, we want to stay within the law,
They
and
did
so we're
not.
letting you know and
No,
asking for your
no.
help. I don't know the exact details
They
of
didn't
that,
do
but
that. I can say they
yeah,
didn't do that. No.
yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us about what else you see going on in Congress. What are some of your frustrations with Congress and what you would like to change there? It's it's a tough road to hoe, right? It's really like it seems really difficult to like be an outsider, or to have like be principled in what you're doing and stuff like that, and actually get stuff done. And I'll bring up somebody. I know a lot of people are very frustrated with Thomas Massey or whatever, but like he's very consistent in the things he
Yep.
does. And I granted he goes against President Trump, but in my mind, he doesn't get a lot done though, because he's so set in his principles that he's very like ineffective in a lot of ways. He's you know what to expect from Massey, and regardless if that goes with President Trump or against President Trump, he's going to stick to the things that he says that he's going to do. He's very consistent in that, but he doesn't get anything done in my mind. He's very ineffective in terms. So how do you balance being principled, having these being standing by the things that you doing the right things when nobody's looking, but also trying to be effective in Congress. I think that's kind of a challenge that somebody, say you get into Congress or whatever. I think that's something that's going to be a major challenge for you to get things done and also stick to your principles.
Yeah, so sticking to the principles isn't going to be an issue for me. I've done that the last 23 years of my life, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why my messaging is resonating, is the work ethic that I demonstrated, kind of the dog on a bone approach to what's critically important, and you always get to yes, right? So it was taught a valuable lesson, very young in my career, where I would always bring back my boss like excuses and why something couldn't get done, right? Whether it was this obstacle or this 3 foot wall, whatever it was, right? He would just look at me and say, "Okay, so how are you going to solve the problem?" And it had an impact on me very young in my career, that you always have to work to get to yes, right? And so there's always a way to get to yes. And so it's that mentality. I think a lot of people face 3 foot walls or 3 foot obstacles, however you want to say that, and then immediately detour off of that. Um, you know, when you look at building those relationships inside Congress, when you look at finding people with common ground, that you can work to help co-sponsor a bill or put a bill in place, right, that's going to benefit, people inside your district, the state that you're from, the state of Georgia, in the country, you've got to find those similarities with the people that you're working with to build that team that's going to take that bill forward. I think the issue is right now, I think there's a lot of distractions going on in Congress with everything kind of going on. There's a lot of people, again, maybe not up there for the right reasons. And so you've got to stay focused on why you're going up there. Yeah, I tell people all the time, I'm in the longest job interview of my life, right? And it's not yearly evaluations, it's every 2-year evaluations, but you guys can fire me at every single time that, anytime that you think it is appropriate if I'm not doing the work that you sent me up there to do. And so I think that's the hard part. The other part is I think there's a lot of people that go to Congress that don't know who they are. And this is going to sound a little bit touchy feely, but the experiences in my life have shaped me into the man that I am, right? And I know what's important, and I know who I am, and I'm not ashamed of who I am, right? And I think that gives you the strength to go up there knowing who you are instead of being able to be manipulated or influenced by other people where you kind of lose your priorities or you lose your character, you lose your integrity. I know the reason why I'm going up there. I know who I am, and I'm going up there to get work done. And so that's the focus. I'd love to tell you the ins and outs. I haven't been a congressman yet, right? I have a lot of friends that kind of told me, what the daily life is like. But when you get up there, I know I'm in a better position from the get-go because I know who I am. I know why I'm going up there. And I know that I've got to work to get to yes for the people of the district and the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
Are you getting any PAC help? PAC?
So I have not received any money from PACs yet. So I did have 2 of my classmates support me that came from their leadership PAC. They're members of Congress, but outside of, corporations or anything like that, I've not received any PAC money.
Yeah. Well, thinking about, other members or whatever, we can talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She just recently left Congress or whatever, and she left on a really bad note, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. But 2024, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a lot of people liked her. Why? Because she was a staunch conservative. I don't know what her voting record was, like crazy conservative. Like it was 98% conservative, like really staunch conservative. And a lot of that resonated with a lot of Georgia, a lot of America. A lot of people wanted to see that shit. It was fantastic while she was doing that. Now, granted, she went out on a very bad note. I think, it had to do with, her not getting a nom for,
the Senate, right?
Yeah, Trump for Senate, but that's a completely different issue. She a lot of what she was doing, she went against the grain a lot, and she was a staunch conservative. That resonated with a lot of Georgians love that shit. And if we could get a couple more reps willing to do those things, and obviously not go out the way that she did, I think she went out in a terrible way, and it just it's ever since then it's been downhill for her. But when, like I said, 2024 Marjorie Taylor Greene, a lot of people really, the things that she was doing, it resonated with a lot of people, and they were thankful that we had somebody from Georgia that was willing to go out there and ruffle some feathers and try and get shit done for us, for the most part. And so we would like to see that again. We would like to see somebody, willing to ruffle some feathers, go against the grain. Matt Gaetz did that too. He didn't give a shit. Like he was pushing for these things. Everybody saw him on the floor when they were, trying to.
He was supposed to be our AG. He was supposed to be our AG. He would have been a much better AG.
Yeah. Well, the thing is he's willing to, again, go against the grain. He's willing to, try and get stuff done. And that a lot of people appreciate that from him. And so, we'd like to see that again. We don't want yes men in there. We want people that are gonna go against the grain, especially in Georgia, red ass Georgia. Like I'm telling you, this is the reddest state in the country. I don't care what anybody says. There's no way that we have two blue senators here. That is not legitimate. It doesn't even make sense. It looks
pretty much like California, Jay.
It looks
it's
ridiculous.
Pretty much like California. We have 2 Democratic senators here. Adam Schiff, and
we need the Save America Act. I'm telling you right now, we need that. That'll never happen again if we get that. And I think Mike Collins will probably.
I wanted to ask both of you, Brian and Jay, about Marjorie Taylor Greene. From the outside, we don't really understand why things changed. She was like one of the most popular politicians. I have a friend who lives in the 14th district, and he told me, he's also an influencer himself, and he told me that he's that she is crazy popular there, more popular than
She was.
President Trump.
She was. It was
Is it different now?
Well, yeah, because the way she went out, right?
Even in that district,
she quit, right? She quit. She was already elected. She quit her job, essentially.
do you think she quit because she thought that she would lose next time around because Trump's not going to support her?
No, that doesn't have anything to do with it. I think she wanted to run for senator, and
yeah, I do know that.
She didn't get the blessing from President Trump that she was going to get the endorsement to do so, and so she threw a fit. Is what that's my opinion of what happened. But like I said, 2024, Marjorie Taylor Greene, when she walked into the room, when I was at a lot of Trump rallies when when she walked into the room, it was like Kid Rock walked in there. Like it was like she was like a rock star because she was very, very conservative, like super conservative voting record, willing to go against the grain, willing to ruffle feathers, and people love that shit. And so if we can get a couple more people from Georgia that are willing to do those things, minus the way that she went out, they would absolutely eat it up. I'm telling you, you'd be a rock star.
I mean, is it because of the Epstein files, or do you think it's personal? Like she requested President Trump to endorse her, so you think that Epstein file is just an excuse for her? Because that's how many people think that Marjorie was trying to expose everything about the Epstein files, but President Trump was very much against releasing the files. Well, that's where the division happened.
President Trump is the reason, so that doesn't even make sense. Because
no, but President Trump had to, remember, Jay, because if you have 2/3 from the Senate side and also Democrat on the House side, overwhelmingly they voted to release it. So they had overriding power over President Trump. So President Trump had to go along with it. So I really think President Trump didn't want to release it.
No, I don't think that's right at all. I think President Trump wanted to release. He ran on at his.
You think he wanted to release it? I don't think he wanted to.
I think he did, and he's the only reason it was released because he was willing to look into it. That's why didn't Biden release it? Why didn't Merrick Garland release it? They had every opportunity to do the same thing.
I think President Trump didn't want to release it. Isn't that why he called Marjorie Taylor Greene? And Marjorie Taylor Greene recently did an interview, and she said that in the Epstein files, it had too many of President Trump's friends there. So Trump told her that he doesn't want his friends getting into trouble or something along that line. And I think that kind of brought the rift along, probably with the Senate endorsement thing, or, but I really thought, from California, me looking into what's going on in Georgia, I felt like that it was the Epstein files and the Israel issue that she thought that President Trump is too pro-Israel, and she was so vehemently against the war against Iran or anything outside of America. Venezuela too, I think. I don't think she was that gung-ho about that either. So, but you're saying that it's just that is not a non-issue, the Epstein file. It's pretty much the senatorial race that she did not get endorsement from.
Yeah, she's throwing a fit, and she's trying to grab any issue that goes against what President Trump is doing or whatever, like sheds bad light or whatever. Like that's my opinion of what she did. Why did she quit? Why did she quit?
I think because what I heard was she felt like she had nothing else to do in just as a House member, and for her to not advance to Senate or a governor there, I think
she had a job in Congress. She signed up.
She's just a single vote, like out of 435, and I think she wanted more power. And I got confused about it, whether she was throwing a fit like what you just said, because Trump wasn't endorsing her, but also she had some she got popular nationally because of the Epstein file. Her and also Thomas Massie too. He became a star because of it too. It was the discharge petition was an embarrassment to Mike Johnson and to President Trump. It wasn't something that President Trump really the discharge petition in the nature of itself is kind of like an embarrassing thing for the House Speaker and the president. So obviously President Trump took it personal.
Well, it's I think you're on the wrong track. I think you're misconstruing what she was doing. She was throwing a fit she was throwing a fit, and that's exactly why she quit Congress, right? She was already elected. She had a job to do. She signed up. It's not like you just fall into Congress. Like it's not like you just like open a Cracker Jack box. I'm a fucking
Facts.
you know what I mean? Like it's she signed up for this job. She didn't finish her job because she threw a fit, and she was gonna use everything that that was in the news or whatever to granted, everybody wanted the Epstein files released. I don't know anybody that didn't want the Epstein files released.
I mean, Jay, you didn't feel that President Trump didn't want. I really think he didn't want, because there are some
Trump
content.
is the only reason that they got released. I'm telling you, if Kamala Harris was president right now, there is 0% chance any of those files would have got released. There was 0%. Like they wouldn't even talk about it. So the whole President Trump didn't want it is bullshit.
You're saying that Marjorie's kind of making it up.
He's the reason he campaigned on it. He was talking about it every campaign stop that he went to. He was talking about doing that. That's the only reason is in the news. And then they pushed him on it, and he got it. For whatever it's worth, for whatever was left, that he got it. Released somewhat.
He did sign it. Yeah.
And so the thing is like I don't think President Trump really cares. I think he wants to move past it, right? Because people will sit here and talk about the Epstein files every fucking day, right? We have a lot of more stuff to go on. Like we can walk and chew bubblegum. Like we have an economy. We have an affordability issue. We have all these different things. We had a border to secure. We have all these different things. So if you're going to talk about the Epstein files every single day, this is another thing too. I talk to my friends or whatever, and they get bogged down in their comments on their social media posts and stuff like that. Liberals will waste as much of your time as you allow them to. They will sit there and argue with you all day long. They don't care. Like anything that you say is the wrong thing, and they know better, and they will sit there and do this. And so President Trump, as a president, he has to keep business going. He has to. There's a lot more going on than just the Epstein files, and the Epstein files is important. I'm telling you, like I want these people to go to prison. I don't know if they ever will.
It doesn't seem like so.
It doesn't.
I heard that there's no investigating going on. That's what I heard.
It doesn't seem like they will. No. But the thing is it's
just a reality of the situation. That's how I'm accepting it. It's very hard when you read the emails. Brian, what's your take on Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing me into the conversation. I was just listening to Jay. Number one, I'll just kind of run down. We need those people that need to be held accountable. Whatever's in the Epstein file needs to be investigated. We need to hold people accountable for taking advantage of young women and trafficking people. Right? Like you need to be held accountable for that. The only person in this country that knows why Marjorie did the things that she did is Marjorie. And I'm not a cop out, but like I would love to say on this, but I'm focused on my race down here. But the one thing I will take from this is people liked her because she went up there and fought for them. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do in this district is fight for the people and fight against, some of the radical Democrat stuff that we've talked about, at the beginning of the show, and actually represent the people. And I think that's why people were fired up about her, because they believed that she was one of them and she was going up there to work for them and they were fighting for her. But, I'm not going to say anything about why Marjorie did it. Only she knows why she made those decisions. But down here in the first district, I have no doubt that the people want somebody who's going to go up there and fight for them and get stuff done.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene really going around mainstream media and bashing Trump too. I don't like it. I really don't.
Well, again, like 2024 Marjorie Taylor Greene, a lot of people liked her. She was like a rock star here in Georgia. Like when she would walk,
she was the most popular Congress member as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, people loved her, and a lot of the stuff that she was doing resonated with them. So it's unfortunate that she went out the way that she did, or whatever. Like she could have done a lot more for us, especially now with the things that we've got going on. We need President Trump to get as much help as he can. So
yeah,
I Jay, along those lines, I try to tell people out on the trail, and I kind of relate it back. And I know I've said the military a lot, and it's such an impactful part of my life, right? But we trained every single day. You had to get to the objective, right? Whether that was 5, 10, 15 miles of walking, when you got to the objective, that's when the fight started. And I relate that back is, we were so excited to get President Trump back in office, right? that on election day, we kind of got complacent. We won, he's back in the Oval Office,
Right.
and all of a sudden people started getting complacent. What I try to remind them every single day is like, it was great that the president's in office, but we need to continue to send fighters up there that are going to fulfill the promises made to the American people. And so that we've got to continue to send the right people up to DC to help him accomplish what we sent him up there to do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's the most important thing I think that's coming out of this conversation is you've got to know who you're sending up there. You've got to know your candidates. You've got to be a part of the process. You've got to go out and vote to send the right people up to DC.
Yeah, and if we don't, what's going to happen is after 2026, we're going to get an impeachment hearing.
Right.
They're going to gridlock Congress. It's going to stop like a lot of the progress, right? There's still things that President Trump can get done, right? We can still have a secure border. We can still deport people. We can still do a lot of different things. Like, but the thing is like, you're not going to be able to pass a conservative budget. You're not going to be able to get the things that you want done with the budget. You're not going to be able to do things like the Save America Act. There's a lot of stuff that you won't be able to do if we lose enough seats in 2026. Yeah. The other part is 2028. If we lose the presidency in 2028 to a liberal, if somebody, Gavin Newsom, whoever becomes president, what they're going to do is they're going to pack the Supreme Court.
No question.
They're going to get rid of the filibuster. They're going to do all the things that they've been crying for in the last Trump administration. And they're going to get it done this time, and they're going to come after conservatives, and it's going to be scary for a lot of people. And I don't know how to motivate people to understand what's going to happen, because it's going to get a lot worse. Under Joe Biden, he halved your dollar value. That's really what happened, right? When you talk about like economics, inflation, the best way to visualize this where people can understand, he cut your dollar value in half. My home price doubled. Well, did the value in my home double? No, it didn't. The
unrealized gains, Jay. Unrealized gains.
Yeah.
The value of my dollar was cut in half. Your grocery bill doubled, right? Well, you're not getting double the groceries, right? You're getting the same amount of groceries, but your dollar was cut in half. That is the best way for people to understand it, because it happens so fast that they just didn't even, it was crazy. It was like, and now, kids can't buy a home. There's a lot of different things that we have, like problems that we're going to have to solve, which is why we need another conservative president in there so we can get this done. It's going to take at least a decade to put a dent in the damage that they caused.
Right. Yeah.
And so I don't know how to motivate conservatives to get out there. So, yesterday was completely frustrating for me. One of the big, I've had Don Brown on my show. I have talked to North Carolinians, and it seemed like Don Brown was going to give, Tillis a run for his money, and he didn't. He got smoked, and I don't. That was like one of the toughest ones for me. Paxton's still in it. They're going to have a runoff. But the thing is like, I don't know how to make people see, man, it's coming. If you do not get involved, if you do not get in this fight, it's going to be bad for us. And
so Jay, number one, you've got to let people know, if we don't win the midterms, right, it's done. Just like you said.
Oh, you're right.
The second part is you cannot allow the Democrats to come in and tell you that they're going to be moderate, right? That they've seen the light of their ways and that they're going to come in and run a moderate, administration or be a moderate representative. All you have to do is go look at with Spanberger in Virginia. She ran as a moderate and has completely erased every bit of progress that has occurred in that state and went as far left as you could possibly go in the matter of a week or 2 weeks. You've got to use that as an example. This isn't some arbitrary thing that may or may not happen. I'm telling you right now, it is going to happen. And so that's the way we have to do. We have to get that message out. You've got to make that clear contrast, whether it's the contrast between me and other candidates in the race, or the clear contrast between our Republican viewpoints, our conservative values in the right direction for this country, or the Democrat side is just going to take us back to square one that we went through 4 years under the Biden administration. And if we can make that message clear cut, then there's no other choice that to send Republicans up there to do the right thing and to continue on President Trump's agenda to put America first.
Brian, Dave, do you two think that the MAGA base kind of got spoiled? Like people people, there's like we talk about like MAGA being divided right now, like influencers like Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens and like Nick Fuentes, all these figures. I don't think many of them, they don't even sound MAGA anymore. Sometimes that they don't feel. I don't get the impression that they really are gung ho about President Trump anymore. Almost. Do you think many of them are just being spoiled and not being like they're losing sight about what we overcame back in 2024?
Michael, that's a great question. Give me 2 seconds to think about that because I'm trying to formulate it in my head. Do I think they got spoiled? No. I think, we had an opportunity. We won the White House, and you're seeing other things come up. When you're in power, you see a lot of different things come up. People want to get, as much notice as possible to kind of work on what they think is important. I can tell you on the campaign trail, it's very difficult. You walk into some rooms, the Republican Party itself inside my district, there's different viewpoints taking on. And what you've got to do is you've got to have a candidate that's going to be able to listen to the entire conservative Republican viewpoint, understand that President Trump is in the Oval Office and he won that on an American First agenda, putting America back in the priority. And I think he's done that very well, right? Whether it comes to national security, whether it comes to, the immigration and shutting down the border. I think he's been on that. But when you have that amount of success, you have a lot of conflicting viewpoints that come out. We just need to get ourselves together as a Republican Party to ensure that we stay in power, to have the votes inside of Congress, both in the House and the Senate, so we can continue to work on that agenda. I think that's what it is. I don't know if people are losing faith or trust. I think they just see an opportunity to get more things done, and we lose priority on that a little bit when we have so many messages coming out.
Well, yeah, what Michael's getting to though is like the Candace Owens, the Nick Fuentes crowd that are like really like they're damaging a lot of the base, and they're kind of
that's what I think.
Huge social media platforms, right? Millions of followers, right? And they are,
the live streaming is like 300,000 for Candace sometimes.
Right. So they're kind of steering away a lot of the base, and we need these votes, right? We need these, like these. A lot of these people, helped us in 2024. Maha too, right? That's another part, right? With the with the
Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, with the RFK and even Elon Musk, right? They brought in votes for us, and so it's a problem that I don't think anybody's tackling right now. I don't think that the GOP even knows how to tackle it. They should at least understand that things are not going to be the way they were in 2024, right? That was like after July 13th, right? We had a movement that was pretty much unstoppable, right? We had people coming on board that we weren't really originally going to have. And a lot of people came together because of that event, because you can't ever have something like that happen again. And now, one of the things is like, we had a common enemy back then, right? Everybody was working towards, we can't have, people trying to assassinate a presidential candidate. We cannot have these people allowing our border to be overrun. And so we had a common enemy back then. And so now, after the election or whatever, we have all these side issues that are really detracting from our base, and that's a problem. It's the Candace Owens and stuff like that. People like Republican candidates may not be paying attention to these things, but you should be. They have a huge influence, and they reach a lot of people. Really do. Watch their damn shows. I'm telling you right now, if you like talk to kids, right, and talk to a teenager.
We're all talking about it.
Talk to a teenager right now and ask them, who's replacing Charlie Kirk in terms of like conservative influence. If you talk to a conservative kid, they're going to say Nick Fuentes. Yep. And so if you aren't paying attention to that as a as somebody who's in government, in the GOP and the RNC, if you aren't paying attention to that shit, you need to be, because I'm telling you, they have huge amounts of influence, and you better listen to the same things that they're saying, because that's we need those votes. I'm telling you, they have such a massive influence it's almost like they have their own news
Yeah.
organizations. These
Yeah, they're like candidates in a way. Yeah, that's
right.
what I
Yeah,
think.
it's
Yeah.
and that's one of the things where I try and get people like conservative candidates, politicians, stuff like that to pay attention to social media, because these people are undermining us in
They
a
really are.
way.
They really are.
It's a problem in my mind, and
Yeah.
it's really it's hurting us for the midterms. And
They never see the positives of President Trump. I just don't understand it.
right.
They, I mean, he sealed the border, and and tariffs, working. And when you listen to Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, or Tucker, he mentions it. Tucker and Megyn Kelly, I would give them, a little bit fair share. I think they do talk about President Trump's accomplishment. But Nick Fuentes, if you watch his show, Nick Fuentes, or even like Owen Schroyer, or Candace Owens never says anything positive about Trump. I'm telling you.
Right, and that it's a problem, because she's the most positive, or she's the
most influential,
powerful podcast in America, probably, and that's a real problem, because she's steering people away from him, and that's going to hurt. The conservative congressional candidates, they're going to vote against you.
I think so.
What she's saying, and I don't know. It's a real problem.
I worry about it, because the recent election results were not good for the Republicans in New York, Miami,
they weren't.
Virginia, in New Jersey, even in Texas, right? The Texas race where President Trump won by 17 percentage points now did like a complete 180 opposite, and there's a Democrat who won there. I just feel I don't have a good feeling, Jay and Brian. This come November, we have to unite, but it seems like it's getting more divisive. I think with the Iran war, people are a little bit more, giving a uniting message on the Republican side. Most people do support. If you look at the polls like Cenk Uygur and all these people who criticize Trump about being too pro-Israel, all the poll numbers show that people do support President Trump on the Iran war. All these like Dave Smith, the ones who used to support Trump, but now they don't. I really think that these influencers have much more power than the mainstream media. That's why I worry about it.
They do. I'm telling you, it's why people need to be paying attention to the things that they're saying, because especially these younger kids, these are voters, right? Yeah. I have 2 voters in my house now. My youngest one just turned 18. My oldest is about to turn 20 this month. And so, they're not listening. They're not watching, Fox News. These kids are not watching, but they are seeing Nick Fuentes. They are seeing Candace Owens. They are seeing these other things. And so these are your, these are also your constituents too. So, and they have just as much voting power as you and I do.
Right. So. You're right. One vote. And President Trump actually got almost 50% of the youth vote, 18 to 30 years old, 47%. Yeah. So that vote, I feel like the number is really dropping down. I can feel that. I worry about it.
Yeah, you gotta stay engaged, and you gotta understand how to talk. They are critically important to the voter base, and they want to feel respected, and they want to have their vote earned, right? They don't want it to be taken for granted, and so you have to engage. One of the things that we've been doing is every opportunity to talk to the younger voters. Or I mean, even just on Monday, I had an opportunity. There was a youth group in the state capitol that were civic oriented, as a group to be involved in civics and understand the election process. And I took time out to speak to them for about 5 minutes. What inspired you to do this? What is going on? But we have to, one of the things I talk about is, I'm just a placeholder. I'm not going up there to do this for 20, 30 years. I'm there to keep the country on track, to fight for the president and the American First agenda, and then hand it off to the next generation, because I think that youth is going to continue to drive that forward. So definitely not taking it for granted, and understood the message of listening a little bit more to those social media influencers to truly understand what's on people's minds right now. It's just another opportunity to listen.
Mm-hmm. Probably it's because these days the youth, they're having a difficult time finding a job, I think. I mean, like financially, they're being squeezed. And I think they thought that President Trump would be like this magic pill, that everything would turn to the positive. But, everything takes some time, right? It takes some time.
when you look at, in the president's first administration and the impact he had on the economy, right? And what I try to tell people is, like, we had it so much worse. President Trump coming into his second administration, he was starting off with such a deficit that it's going to take time to continue to
Yeah,
work through that.
right.
But if you look at those areas that he's working on, you're going to see that progression, right? We haven't seen it in the numbers yet,
Mhm.
but it's going to come, and so you
Yeah,
just got to allow him to
mhm,
continue on his path.
right,
Well,
right.
the thing is too is I support President Trump. I would vote for him again if he ran. Like it's like
I mean, I want him to. I want a third-term
yeah,
President Trump. I
I
mean,
do
because we feel like he's the only.
right.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
but the thing is this is whatever like President Trump needs to be careful spiking the football, right? The average person is not feeling the positive, right? When they talk about like the Dow being up 50,000, like the average person is not a high level investor where they're feeling the positive of that. So do not say that shit, right? It's a good thing that the stock market is rebounding, right? But the average person, Joe and Mary American, like they are not feeling like their grocery bill is still high.
right.
Groceries are still up. They're paying, even though gas prices are down, they're still paying a lot.
Right.
People want to live the American dream and get in their house and they can't afford it, right?
Right.
When you look, I mean, when you look at kind of the top drivers of it, inflation is still high, right? We lost, you said at the beginning, our dollar does not go as far. When you look at healthcare and the price of healthcare, right, with middlemen in there driving up prices, insurance, driving up prices, preventing doctors from doing what they want to do is provide healthcare to patients, and patients being able to get, healthcare that they need at the time they need it. Well, there's this middle guy in there called the insurance companies that are preventing that from happening and spiking up costs. Right. So you have healthcare, when you look at the average American, what they pull in, and then you say, okay, well, they've got to get to work. So there's your gas costs, right? The grocery prices are up. So that's going to eat away. But then you're looking at health insurance and how much that takes away. And then if you have both parents working and they're looking at daycare, daycare prices are going up, and take a significant portion of your budget out of it. We need to make life more affordable, for the average, for the hardworking American that's down on the ground doing that. And we just keep taking away at the paycheck that they earn through their hard work. And when nothing's left, that's hard to feel that when you can't go on vacations, right? When you're thinking about your grocery bills, when you're thinking about
Right.
every day-to-day type stuff going on, even though the economy may be doing well, the Americans themselves are not feeling it, and we need to turn that around. And I think the president's going to focus on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
because there are people who are not investing in the stock market too. A lot of
Right.
the young people,
Well, even
they're not feeling it.
talking about, I mean, not every stock is doing well, right? I don't know.
That's
Like
true. You're right. Yeah. Yep.
when they talk about 401ks being up, I mean, mine is not up, right? It's stayed about the
Mhm.
same in the past year, right? Even though I'm putting money into it, right?
Mhm.
It hasn't fluctuated much. It's
Mhm.
about the way that it was, a year
Mhm.
ago. And so
Mhm.
for them to say, "Oh, your 401ks are up and stuff like that," well, no, for most people, they're probably not. There's probably not
Mhm.
this huge fluctuation or whatever.
Mhm.
If you invest in crypto, that's taking a hit too. So the thing
Yeah,
is
crypto went down. Crypto went down.
it's way down, right? It's Bitcoin's around low 70,000.
60,000.
I
70,000.
think
Yeah.
It's really hard to talk to investment when people don't have the money to invest because they're
right.
trying to live
Right.
their daily
You're
lives.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's kind of.
that's tone deaf, right? It's just kind of tone deaf for them to do that. You can be realistic about things or whatever. You can say, the Dow is up and stuff like that, but you don't have to pretend like everybody's doing fantastic, because a lot of people aren't. I'd say most people are not. They're
It
still
seems
struggling.
like they feel that way.
They're still struggling.
If
Well, yeah, President Trump is insulated too in a lot of ways, and so some of the people around him are not telling him exactly
Mhm.
the truth,
Mhm.
because they don't
Yeah.
live in the same world that we
No.
do.
No.
And so that's but moving forward, right, we have, we're voting for congressional candidates and senators and stuff like that. If they can convey this or whatever, at their level or whatever, then it helps the average person. If we can send people to Congress that aren't going to work for their lobbyists, well, then that helps the American people, right? That's one of the frustrations too with people is, we vote for these people. They say they're going to run on these principles, protecting veterans' rights, looking out for average day Americans or whatever. And within a few months, they're working for their lobbyists, and you never hear from them again, right? They're going against everything that you want. They're doing their own thing to fill their campaign coffers, and they're working for their lobbyists. So that's another frustration a lot of people have.
There are definitely some steps that we have to take. One of the reasons I'm running it is to work on this stuff, but they're hard problems and it needs serious people to go up there and work on them. When you're looking at the affordability crisis, I think, a lot of people talk about energy costs, right? And the cost of gas and stuff like that. A lot of people say, we need more take-home pay in order to pay these bills. I think somebody just commented, my daughter wants to buy her own home, is working overtime. Like, let's talk about why housing costs are so high when you're looking at the regulations that are in place, the lack of permitting, supply is down because it takes so much bureaucracy to get through in order to get it done. You've got to look at this from the federal level and what things that you can do or I could do as a congressman moving forward if I earn the trust of the people of the first district. Like, you've got to approach those things in pieces, right? One, you've got to incentivize a lot of the zoning and the policies are done at the local level, but at the federal level, we can incentivize those communities that eliminate the barriers to permitting in order to get supply up, right? At the federal level, we can work with, both the state and the local community. There's a lot of issues in the first district. We are developing very quickly. There's a lot of demand for workforce, but we're not putting the right emphasis on workforce training to get those skilled people into the jobs that we need them to. The other constraint that's existing right now is the infrastructure to take place. So when I'm talking about lower energy costs, right, and lowering costs for small businesses, you got to think, if we don't have the right infrastructure, we don't have the right roads, we don't have broadband access, those are all driving up costs. And so we need to provide those communities the ability to do that, so it lowers costs to transport goods from point A to point B, right? So that people have more access to broadband to do those types of things, to do the commerce on it. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do at the federal level to incentivize those changes that need to take place in order for life to be more affordable. And that's where we need to be focused on up in Congress, to be working for the people. And that's exactly what I want to do when I get up there. We need to change that aspect. Whether it's one of the big things, right, that I've learned on the campaign trail is that when we're talking about competitive markets, which is a conservative principle, right, there's a lot of industry that's being consolidated under one or two companies that's eliminating that competition that takes place that lowers prices. When I'm able to control the market, I don't have to worry about, being competitive anymore and keeping prices low. I can control the market. One area of that is really simple, is in public safety and public health. We used to have 3 or 4 or 5 manufacturers of fire engines. And this is a very specific example, but it's one to drive the point home, where over the last 10 years, they've consolidated into just 1 or 2 manufacturers of fire engines, right? Which has doubled the cost of a fire engine. And I'm talking about public safety, doubled the cost of fire engines, and has also doubled or even tripled the lead time for a fire engine to get down to a local community to provide safety for their community. And that's just because of consolidation of that industry. We need to ensure that the market is staying competitive, that we don't have this consolidation that's driving up prices for the American people. Because just that fire truck results down to the local community budget, which then drives up millage rates and taxes for that local community. And I think that's where oversight from the government needs to come in. And and then lastly, we need people that are up there that are going to stop Washington from reigniting the inflation by continuous out of control spending and holding people accountable for that stuff. That's where my mind's at when I look at affordability, and what I'm actually going to be able to do in Congress is taking those steps up there and working to get those passed so we can relieve some of the pressure on the American people.
Well, yeah, and to what Scott Bessent was saying too was, they basically flooded the market with 50 million illegals, and now there is really no the housing crisis or whatever, like what drove prices up a lot or whatever, was you flooded the market with all these people that needed a place to live. And so that's another piece of this that really is screwing a lot of people over in terms of the prices. And so deportations need to happen, right? These people need to go home. we shouldn't be holding them there or whatever. And President Trump got a win too from the Supreme Court today. Is on the
But did he?
deportation. Yeah,
Did he win something?
yeah, it was actually
I'm
unanimous.
always worried about Amy and John.
Let me see if I can pull it. Oh well, I had it up here earlier. But it was basically in terms of like the deportations or whatever, they deferred. Supreme Court hands President Trump deportation win, unanimous asylum ruling. So basically, what it is they're going to defer to the judge basically to determine whether they can stay here or not, which most asylum case, I think it's like I want to say it's like 98% of asylum cases are denied because they're fraudulent, right? They're not actually seeking asylum. They're just looking to come into the country, and an easy way to do it. So that's basically what it was in a nutshell. And it was actually unanimous. So that's a win for President Trump. Ketanji Brown Jackson actually even supported it. So
Really?
they're deferring to the judge. Now that can be problematic if you have a liberal activist judge, but we're also getting constitutional judges in there right now. They're actively hiring. DHS is actively hiring judges, and that's a win for that. So hopefully, it's basically like they're getting back to remain in Mexico is what they're going back to. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, Brian, going back to the affordability.
Go ahead. Go ahead real quick.
Yeah, going back to the affordability issue, Brian, do you think like the Democrats are using this like it's their issue? Like, I mean, their card to use, even though they were the one who caused this, hyperinflation.
100%, right?
That Republicans have all three chambers, the executive and the House and the Senate. Are they blaming on the Republicans?
Oh yeah, because it didn't happen overnight, right? So that's the easiest when you're not the party in power and you're going to pick apart every single thing that it's not moving fast enough. Even though we had the previous 4 years to work on this, now that it's day 5 of the Trump administration, he hasn't solved the problem. So obviously we're going to own it now and then put the focus on him. Like, come on now, it's pure politics at play. Not going to harm on it. We would do the same thing, like we did to Biden because Biden created it. But yeah, it's easy. They're going to take it back from him because that's what he won on, was talking about affordability, right? Putting America first. And then because it doesn't happen in the first 5 days of his administration, we're going to hijack that from you. But Jay, I just looked at the upper left-hand corner. I think we're at an hour and 45 minutes. I've had a blast, but I'm going to be the guy that ruins the party right now.
No worries. Yeah, we get into these discussions sometimes, and like I said, if I had Kevin Smith and Madeline here, we probably could have went 5 hours. But I appreciate you coming in here. Where can people find you?
Yeah, they can find me at brianmontgomery.org. That's my main website, and you can hit all the social and see what I'm up to in the upper right-hand corner. But listen, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight for the people of the first district. And, I cannot do this alone. This is a team. We call it Team Montgomery, right? And when people come on board and they ask how they can volunteer, I really say, 4 things. Spread the message, right? If you were joining us tonight, you liked what you heard, you want to support, spread the message. Let people know that you were able to see me. Go to my social media, follow us, share when I'm sending out messages, share that with everybody so we can continue to build the team across the board. Going back to finances, you can hit the donate link right there on brianmontgomery.org to give me the ability to continue to spread that message, getting into people's mailboxes. Jay, buying more signs to get them out and across the district. And then, you getting that message out. And then lastly, the prayers that are going on this to keep me on the right path, to keep me on the right foot. That's extremely important as well. I always tell people when you join Team Montgomery, this is a 2-way road, right? It's about sharing information with me. Where do I need to be if there's an event going around inside the district? If I need to get drawn attention to something else going on, this is a 2-way road, and I need your help, not only in spreading the message, but keeping me accountable. But that's where you can find us. I'm excited to be on tonight, Jay. I appreciate giving me the opportunity to come back on.
Yeah. I was checking to see. Sometimes I can compete with Alex Jones, but not for very long. Like they blow me out of the water.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
did sometimes. You're right.
12,000 listeners, right? 12,000
Uh-huh.
live listeners. That's pretty good. But I went and looked at Alex Jones. He had 212,000. But they've been going at it for 10 hours. So give me a little bit of grace, right? I did decent tonight. One of my bigger shows, I had like 75,000 live listeners. So
Oh, really?
hey, whatever,
So,
man.
so you had Alex running for his
It's
money,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, hey man, I can put some people in here, but no, I appreciate it. We had a lot of comments tonight, so thank you for everybody that was commenting. We had some great comments. We had good conversation going on, especially on YouTube. Subscribe to me on YouTube. That's the one of my smaller social medias that I'm trying to build up. But thank you for coming here tonight. I
Yeah,
appreciate
and
you.
Michael, it was great to meet you tonight, man.
Yeah,
Bringing
Thank,
into
yeah,
perspective from the left coast is always great.
Michael is a smart
you
dude,
know,
and
California is California, but you know, I'm glad to have conversation with you, Brian, and you know, all the best for your
I
campaign.
appreciate that, Michael.
Michael is badass. He's got over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. That is no small feat. That's badass. That's way
Yeah,
harder.
probably next time we can do an interview over there too, you know, so that a lot of my viewers can go out and, you know, vote for you.
That's like having your
That'd
own
be awesome. Thank you.
dude is badass.
All right, y'all.
Jay's
Have a
always
great night.
talking me up.
All right,
Jay's
brother.
great.
Jay and Michael, thanks a lot, man.
All right, have a good
Okay,
one, Brian.
thank you, Brian.
All right, Michael. Thank you
Yeah.
for coming here tonight, brother.
Yeah, no problem, man. Always having a great time.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I appreciate you. What you got going on your channel?
My channel, I just I'm just commentating on what's going on both here in the States and also what's going on in South Korea as well. You know, there was a recent debate about voter fraud, and more than 6 million people watched that particular YouTube show because they had a debate, an open debate. It went on 7.5 hours. Can you believe that? 8 hours. And a
Yeah.
lot of people and everybody's talking about it, and the Korean left wing, they considered voter fraud like a conspiracy theory, but now it's coming to the forefront. And I don't know, I think that this has everything to do with what's going on in the States. I think I told you about it before on our previous on your previous show. FBI raiding what happened in Fulton County, right?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that they're paying attention to right now, I can say.
Right.
In the South.
Yeah,
South
well, I mean,
Korea.
if we can, expose what happened here, it probably the same thing happened there, because they seem to use the same tactic in all these different countries. It's wild, the Venezuela aspect and all these things that play into it that seem to happen in several different countries, and so
no question about
it. Hopefully something comes of it, because people are craving some election integrity. People have lost a lot of faith in these systems. Right. And so if we can restore some of that trust, hopefully we can get the Save America Act through. It's going to be a game changer.
What I personally think is, if something really does come out in this investigation, they already took like 700 boxes. I think this can be a game changer and give an edge to the Republican Party, and kind of unite. It could be a uniting force. And I mean, today's interview, I think it was great with Brian. Last time it was with Candace Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of strong candidates there.
Yeah, Georgia congressional candidates, man. That's one of the things that I try and help them out, is try and get their voice out there. Generally they have smaller social media accounts or whatever, not as active as we are on here, being influencers or having shows and stuff like that. So I try and help them get their message out there, because I think we owe it to them. The news is not going to do it. The news is not going to help these guys out in any way. And you have leftists who pay their influencers, right? We're unpaid. This is a labor law. We just like to do this shit. And so leftists, they pay them. It's a completely different system. They're paying their influencers or whatever, and they're doing it because they're getting paid to do it. So but we need,
they're not doing what Cognitive Drift is doing.
Yeah, you're not doing that. This shit's unpaid. I don't get paid to do this, so I just like to do it. I like to have the conversations, and hopefully we can help them get their message out there to their constituents who can make an educated decision when they vote. So
Yeah, I think you are the uniting voice, Jay. You know, I do hear a lot about division in the MAGA movement, about all sorts of issue. But I think Jay, you always try to find that a common bond that we can go back to, back to basic, so to speak, so that we
we
can make some magic that we made in 2024.
we need votes. We need vote. Like, we need to win. Like, I don't want to exclude anybody. I want liberal votes. I want
Sure.
middle of the road votes. I want people that are people that are pro-Israel. I want people that are pro-Gaza. I don't give a shit. I want their votes so that we can win. There's a bigger picture for me. I don't get wrapped around the edge on one person or one issue, or like I don't
You're right.
that. Like, you got to look at the bigger picture, and I
You're
want
right. That's what I always say. You're right.
I want our kids to be able to afford to buy their own homes. I want our kids to, be able to, start a family and be able to, that's what I want. And, that's the America I grew up in. I was able to.
You should make that slogan. Look at the big picture, not just one. That should be your slogan,
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So I think a lot of people lose sight on that.
Yeah, I don't care what you look like. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care. Like, if you're voting for the things that help America, then we're on the same team. So that's the way I look at it. So
and that's how President Trump won in 2024 with all those votes. He got a lot of liberal votes. We shouldn't forget about that. A lot of liberals voted for Trump. So even come November, I think we need to get a lot of liberal votes. No more infighting. That's what I think, especially like. Now it's 9 months out, right? Is it 6 months out? I think it's crunch time now. That's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to stamp some of that out. We need to not fuel the flames on some of these, side arguments and stuff like that. We need to start to come together for the common good.
I agree. Yeah, we have to. There's no time for division.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming here tonight.
All right. Thank you, Jay.
Appreciate you, man. Where can they find you?
Anytime.
Where can they find you? What's your X handle?
So my X handle is @MikeWanTruth, and my YouTube channel is Truth Politics. So
follow him there. Your X account is doing pretty well. It's growing pretty good.
Is it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this is my third account.
It's hard to grow right now. It really is.
Right?
It's very difficult, but yours is growing nicely. Like
okay, all right. Thanks for rooting for me, man.
Yeah, no,
yours is like astronomical. I mean, really, I do see it. Like, if Alex Jones is not there, it's always number one. When we got like 27,000 almost last time with Madeline, until Alex Jones started, and then he kind of took over.
Yeah, and in Spaces, Mario Knopfel and Diligent, they really kill it there. So you can see the Spaces, and where Mario Knopfel and Diligent, they're usually at the top, and then for lives, I can for the smaller accounts, I consider myself smaller than like Alex Jones or whatever. Like, I can do pretty decent. Kay Daly, she does pretty decent too. She'll get several thousand in there or whatever. She's another conservative account. So yeah, we do pretty good. So
that's great. I mean,
I have fun doing it. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming in here tonight. Have a good night, and I'll probably talk to you next week at some point. So
all right, man. Good night.
All right. Have a good night. All right, there you have it. We had Brian Montgomery from Congressional District 1 in Georgia, talking some issues, talk a little war, talk a little politics, talk to, about the economy and stuff like that. These are all things that are in my mind. After the elections in North Carolina and Texas yesterday, hopefully, a lot of conservatives took that as, a motivator, right? We got to get in this. We got to get in the fight. We got to push the candidates that we want. We got to get the conservatives out there, because we're up against, it's kind of a David and Goliath situation. And so we need to help the good ones get their name out there. So thank you for listening tonight. I appreciate, we had a ton of people commenting tonight. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for the repost. I love you all. Have a good night, and I'll see you next time.